Hey everyone, Temporal here, and for this session, we are doing a mini guide for Hammond, the hamster hero. And the first thing that we're going to cover in this mini guide is going to be when we're talking about the hamster, we want to make sure that our exit path, and by nature of our exit path, also our entrance, is different than that of our team. And it might seem like, hey, the entrance being different than your team is what really matters, and that is true, but the exit being different than your team, different than your core, is what really goes towards making sure your next entrance is different than your team. So what does this mean, and why am I obsessing over it, is the first of 2 points in this mini guide. Well, here's what this means. The direction that you are over here in this case, we have Seraphine as our hamster player, is coming in from the right of this enemy team, where his core, and by core, I really just mean the main group, the back line, the biggest clump of his team is coming in from the left on our screen. This does a lot of good things for you. It causes the opponents to just be distracted. They can't really follow what's happening over there, what's happening over there. They can't keep both of you on their screen at the same time. Evasive movement that works against one direction or cover that works against one direction is likely to not work as well against the other direction. But also spam that is meant for the Hammond doesn't hit your team and vice versa. So what you're looking to do here is make sure that after you take this fight, after you go in and fight these guys in some way, once you've spent your abilities, maybe spent your ammo, and it's time to leave as hamster, that you leave in a direction that is different than your team. And the reason for that is you are not Winston. You do not want to go back to your team and go, oh, okay, Anna, heal me back up and get nano. You want to go, hey, I'm out. I'm going to go get health packs, and the direction that I leave is going to have a big impact on, because I left in this way, it's easier to come back in this way, or because I left in this way, I can come back in this way, or this way, but some direction that is different than your team. If you leave in the direction of your team, you're now going to have, hey, they all get to pay attention to you and your team, they can chase you and your team, they can continue to spam you and your team, and when you try to set up the next fight, you're going to have to spend more time either going through them to get somewhere else and then go get health packs, or you're going to have to spend more time wandering outside their sight lines, more time staging for the next fight, none of which are really to your advantage. So let's take a quick look here and see how this goes. So here we are, we see Seraphine coming in from the right, Core's on the left. This is going to happen, and then the Transcendence happens. And the Transcendence is fine. During the Transcendence, they're going to be stacked. Of course, you're going to want to be in there as Hammond, getting your Transcendence, or maybe getting your rally, or whatever the case is. You're brawling, not a big deal. It's when we re-exit that we really want to make sure we continue to hold a different angle. Being in there to greedily get the support ult so you can hard brawl, no problem. So here we go. And now the Transcendence ends, so when Seraphine next leaves, which is now, we expect it to be in a different direction. And that's exactly what happened. We got this situation where Hammond exited over here. Let's get a different color for that. Hammond exited over here. The core is back over here. And the enemy team, blue, is mostly in this place between these two. So they're in this place where, hey, we get to threaten with different angles, that sort of thing. That's good. They have to pay attention in this direction or pay attention in this direction. It's not paying attention to both. And because of this, when Hammond comes back in, Hammond is going to be able to go, I come back in this direction. Maybe I come back in this direction. Whatever it is, it's different than the direction of his core, and that is going to cause him to take less chip on the way in, be able to actually get in as a surprise, going to cause the opponents to look away from his team to look at him. That is all very good stuff, but the ability to re-enter differently than your team is strongly influenced by, did you leave the fight in a different direction than your team? Remember, you don't need to go back to your team to get a bunch of healing or something. You don't go, oh no, I've spent my abilities, now let me get healed up by Zen, by Anna, whatever. No, you go and exit in a different direction than your team. Little bit harder in some of these higher level games where you're looking at Tracers and Hammonds and sometimes Sombras on the other team, but this is what you're looking to do. The second point that I want to get into here, that's going to generally help players, what these mini guides are doing is, I'm going for, maybe it's something it should be something that'll probably help you, but I can't really know that it's specifically what you need to work on most without VOD reviewing you. So when it comes to these mini guides, we're grabbing those mistakes that are pretty common mistakes across the player base. They're things that I've come across a lot when doing my coaching, and I have coached a lot of people in Overwatch, and they're a lot of gain, a lot of, hey, you're going to be better, you're hopefully going to get more SR, you're going to improve meaningfully. For relatively small amounts of investment, these two are just mostly mental shifts in how you're thinking. So small mental shifts or mostly mental shifts or quite a bit of gain there. We sort of want, hey, it applies to a lot of different players. It's not just a couple players that are making this mistake, and it helps quite a bit when you make the change. So the second thing that we're looking for here is going to be, we want to make sure that we get 2 ability hits. We have a plan when we start the fight, when we go into a fight, for how we're going to get at least 2 different hits of our abilities with Hammond. And what do I mean with that? Well, let's jump to a point where I can give you guys an example. And assuming I can have my mouse, which is never a safe assumption in Overwatch in the replay viewer, assuming I can have my mouse, we will go to, that's actually what I want, but I think we need to go a bit earlier. And maybe we rewind just a little bit more to get rid of some of those annoying noises. Okay, so here we are. That'll work. And let's go like that. And when it comes to this hamster hero, we've got 2 good abilities to deal damage with. Adaptive Shield doesn't do any damage, so we have our Tether and we have Pile Drive. So out of these 2 abilities, if we've got to get 2 ability hits in any plan for an engage, and your plan might not always survive contact with reality, but you've got a plan when you go in for how you're going to get 2 ability hits, you're going to have to use both of these abilities, generally speaking. Or you're going to have to double up on tether uses. And if you double up on tether uses, that can be okay, because tether is on a short cooldown, and you can generally go, hey, if I can hit you with 2 tethers and get quite a bit of left click value, that can be enough to finish someone off before peel is too likely to show up, before healing is too likely to get involved and just send them out of your range, because Hammond is a bursty hero. So what we're looking at in terms of getting to ability hits, what are the combinations that we can do that with? Well, the most obvious one is going to be the, hey, let's swing in like a wrecking ball. Let's go, hey, we'll maybe tether up high. We'll swing across like this. We'll hit someone. Maybe we'll hit someone who's right here. Great. That knocks them back a little bit. And then we swung through them. We didn't let go of our tether. And now we pile drive down. And maybe we get 140, 150, 130 damage. 50 for the roll through. And then up to 100 for the pile drive. That would be great. And then we've only got to do what? 60 damage with our 80 ammo. That's doable. It's hard to get like 150, sometimes even 100 damage out of your 80 ammo here. And then if you have to go through a reload, that's a really slow reload. Yes, you get to hide it in being in ball form, but it doesn't really matter at that point because peel is going to come through and save people. So if we're looking to get that elimination, this would be one way to get our 2 ability hits. This would sort of be the standard way. You have all your cooldowns. You do this to someone who's unsuspecting. Great. That's going to work pretty well. But there's obviously other ways you can get your ability combos as well. Another obvious ability combo would be, hey, I'm going to tether rolls through someone that's maybe on point here. I might hit this wall. I might intentionally hit this corner because it makes it a little bit easier to bounce. And then I'm going to pile drive. So hit them with the tether, threw them back into here, hit the pile drive. Great. Now we can unball, take them out, finish them off, get that last 60, 70 damage. We're happy. Maybe get 30 damage on them, something like that. They start to run. And then I've got my tether back and I roll through them again and get the finish for a 3rd hit there. Doesn't really matter. The point is, going into this fight, I had a plan for how I was going to get 2 different ability hits. Another final example here could be, hey, I'm up here, you're down below. I open with a pile drive this time, fight you a little bit, or maybe I just bounced off a wall to open with this without using tether, do some damage to you, you start to run, use that tether to finish you off. That can work, and you might be thinking, Temporal, you should always have 2 abilities to get this. When when would you ever not have 2 abilities? Well, there's times that you need to consider it. A, if you don't have your pile drive available to you, how are you going to get 2 ability hits? Well, it's going to be 2 tethers in that case, and that's perfectly fine, but you have to make sure that your second tether is going to work for you okay. Are you going to be able to hit them with that tether and then keep your tether so you can change direction and get out? Or are you going to use that tether to finish someone off and then end up in the middle of 5 opponents and get eliminated yourself? Well, that's not really going to work. Or are you going to use a tether to hit someone and fight them, and within 2 seconds, they're going to have 2 friends with them? That's not a good hit because you can't possibly get 2 ability hits before they're going to have peel. So that's really how you want to think about this. Can you get 2 good ability hits? This doesn't matter a ton when you're peeling for your backline. When you're protecting your team, you might go, hey, I've got Diva and a Winston diving my Hanzo, diving my Zen. I just want to get over there and drop a pile drive to control them a bit, to CC them. That's perfectly fine. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about wanting these 2 hits when you're trying to go for an assassination type play, when you're trying to really make a play. That's when these matter. So those are really the 2 things I wanted to... Oh, I didn't give the example yet. Let's try that one more time. So here we are, and we see this happening, and that's great. And Theo goes in here. Theo's our blue Hammond player, doing a little bit of work, fine. Obviously, they're stacked with their team right now. That's okay because of the Transcendence, but it's not a great place to be after the Transcendence, right? We don't want to brawl standing on top of our team. That's not a good place for ball. And that's exactly what we wanted. So we see here that we were stuck with the team after the Transcendence. We take a different route to take us away from the team to hit the opponents from a different angle. And we've got, so that illustrates our first idea here of, hey, we want a different entrance path. And then we've got this idea of we're going to get our 2 ability hits, and we had both the roll through from the tether, and then we had the pile drive. And that is exactly what we wanted here. And this time we didn't get an elimination. We instead got Transcendence. Perfectly fine. We'll take the engage trade there, re-engage trade there for the Transcendence, and now it's very easy to roll away that sort of thing after having used 2 abilities to get an elimination, or in this case, force and ult. So that's really an example of what we're looking for here. You go, hey, I've got a plan for how I'm going to hit 2 different abilities. You'll notice this wasn't just a roll through and now I'm sort of stuck. It was the hold on long enough or arc high enough that we can either, we're arc high enough that we can pile drive, or we go just past, even if we didn't arc high, and then we can pile drive and pile drive back on, because you can, of course, change direction you can change direction right as you're going off the edge there, and as soon as you're off the edge, you have the ability to pile drive. So that's what I wanted to go over. Again, this is a mini guide. What we're looking for here is a couple things that a lot of people do wrong on ladder, but get you a lot of gains if you want to work on them. So apply to a lot of people, get a lot of gains. Pretty easy to implement, minimal effort to implement, maximum reward. We like those. If you guys are enjoying this type of content, please do drop a like, consider subscribing if you haven't done so. If you would like to get coaching yourself, you can join my Discord in the description below and see what my rates look like, see what sort of prices I'm charging, and, we can do some of this yourself, as well as the lots of examples of my coaching are there available through the Discord through this YouTube channel. Lastly, if you want to see more mini guides, go ahead and drop a comment below on who you want to see next. What I get the most comments for will have some impact on who I go do next. I won't necessarily guarantee that the absolute most votes means I'll 100% go do that hero next, but drop some comments on who you're interested in. That will help steer where I go next. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks. Temporal out.